And welcome to the Napier People and Places Committee meeting Thursday the 4th of May. 4th of May is Star Wars Day pretty much, as Russell has shown us. May the 4th be with you. Right, could we please stand for the opening karakere? Tu taua mai o mana, tu taua mai e raro, tu taua mai o roto, tu taua mai waho, kia tau ai te mauritu, te mauri ora, ki te taikoa, hauri e, hui e, tāi e. Just a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on Council's Facebook site or page. It looks like we've got a full muster today, so no, it doesn't look like there's any apologies. Can I have a mover and a seconder to confirm that? Don't need one, even easier. Any conflicts of interest to declare? We have no public forum today in this committee. Are there any announcements by the Mayor?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to acknowledge the passing of Pat McGill this past Sunday, the 30th of April. I know Pat is known to everybody in this room and to many, many people in our community for years and years of his social justice campaigning that he's done on behalf of the community of Ahuriri. There's so many things to comment on in the work that he's done. He received an OBE for services to the YMCA and the wider community. He was the backbone of the Napier Pilot City Trust, which was established nearly 40 years ago, and he's also very renowned for the work that he's done with regards to Te Tariti o Waitangi and the Robson Collection. He was all about creating and building a kinder and fairer city for all, and our hearts go out to his family. He'll be sorely missed, and his legacy will live on for many, many years ahead. So, thank you.
I thought there's some there.
We've got ghosts. Announcements by the Chair. Councillor Bogue would like to say something this morning.
Oh, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to say something, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to talk briefly about the census and how we are progressing with that. I was at a community meeting last night in Maraenui and a team from the census were there, and I understand that the feedback, the forms that have come in from Maraenui are at about between 30 and 35%. And this is reflected across other parts of our city, particularly the low socio-economic areas. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to urge the people who are watching this and also the people in this room to do what we can to encourage our community contacts and our whānau to complete the census form. And I think the main thing to remember about the census is that all public funding is data-driven. So if you don't have the data, you don't get the funding. It's as basic as that. And if we don't have data feeding into health, education, welfare statistics, then the funding will not be forthcoming. And we have very high levels of deprivation and poverty within our city, and it would be most unfortunate if people missed out on appropriate funding to support them through not filling out the census. And we can blame the government or blame the cyclone or blame the people who don't fill out the forms, but I want to be able to look in the mirror at the end of this month when the census finally closes for our area and feel that I've done my very best to get as many people as possible on board. So I just urge everybody to do what we can, because this will maximise support, particularly for the most needy people of our community. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well said, Councillor Bogue. Call for any minor matters not on the agenda. Any announcements by management?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. Confirmation of the minutes from the People and Places Committee meeting held on Thursday the 23rd of March 2023, and that they're a true and accurate record of the meeting. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Bogue and Councillor Tariha. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. We head to our open agenda. Agenda item 1 is the Napier Social Monitor Report 2023, presented by Michelle Gregg, and I think she has with her today Dr. Virgil Troy and Talia from SIL. If you guys would like to come forward and present the paper to us, please.
Kia ora, thank you, Mr Chair. Atamari e koutou, ko Michelle Gregg tokoinga from the Community Strategies team. So this is a short overview of the 2022 Social Monitor. Despite best laid plans, we were hoping to get this through to you earlier, but with an election and a cyclone, that kind of got delayed somewhat. So pleased to present this paper today, which asks you to receive the Social Monitor Report 2022. So I'm taking the paper as read, but I do have a very short overview of some of the highlights from the report for you today. And as the Chair said, Virgil Troy is here from Civil Research just to add insights from their perspective as well. So the Social Monitor, some of you will know, was significantly revamped in 2019. It's essentially a survey of community wellbeing and perceptions, so a random survey of people from the community. It's a snapshot in time. That's really important to emphasise. This is just a point in time. How are people feeling? What are their perceptions and behaviours? Covering a range of measures, including community wellbeing, safety, diversity and inclusion, and behaviours around climate change and travel patterns, among other measures. The survey uses a number of data collection methods, so people have got different opportunities of participating. They may get phoned, they can go online and do it. Those are the two main methods, and we advertise it widely, so everyone potentially has an opportunity to participate. So this particular survey was in the field August, September last year, casting our minds back, and about, exactly 528 respondents completed the survey. So just to put a bit of context around this, there have been national influences happening, and these no doubt are also impacting on our community. So in particular, inflation and cost of living, which we're starting to bite back then as well, August, September last year. And of course, the impact of the recent cyclone is not captured in this information. So just on that note, we have been working with Civil Research to develop a post-cyclone wellbeing survey, which is going into the field in the next few days. So we'll be asking people there, about how they're coping in terms of impacts of the cyclone, how are they, what are their perspectives around emergency preparedness and resilience, and really just to gauge community sentiment at this point in time. So some high-level findings from the Social Monitor of last year. There's a few things that improved at that time compared to the previous monitor in 2021. There's a few things that stayed the same, and an overall decline in quality of life, which I'll talk to as well. So the first measure I've put up there is around safety perceptions, and that was sitting at 62% overall, with 62% of residents feeling safe. That was an increase from 56% in 2021 and 45% even earlier, where we did have a bit of a drop. So it's good to see that going up, but we do want to measure that again in the post-cyclone survey. And this feeling of improved safety was the same for both daytime and nighttime in different parts of the city, neighbourhood, CBD. The second measure up there is around diversity. People feeling that having a diverse range of people with different lifestyles and cultures making Napier a better place to live went up slightly from 48% to 53% over the year between the two measures. Some measures haven't changed significantly between 2021 and 22, which you can see up there, but nevertheless, some of them are still positive. So just going through those, about just over half of residents are concerned about the impacts of climate change, 58%. This is something we also kind of want to measure going forward, obviously. This was a new measure in this survey, and it's something that the Regional Council also collects. So we do have some comparisons there. So the main concerns that people identified around climate change impacts was sea level rises, followed by the threat of flooding and high rainfall, and followed by, but with a much smaller proportion, only 11% of people talking about storms and changing weather patterns. So it'll be interesting to see how that tracks over time with what the community has recently experienced with the cyclone. The next one up there is around neighbourhood connections. So really, really pleasing to see that this is still high, remaining positive similar compared to previous years. But in particular, and a little question under this is around the number of residents who have a supportive network of family and friends, and this sits at 86% at the time of this monitor. Really good to see that. And overall sentiment about quality, sort of life in Napier in general, and people saying whether they're rating their life as either good or very good. This is again consistent with previous years and sitting at 70%. As I mentioned earlier, there has been an overall decrease in quality of life. People saying that their quality of life hasn't improved compared to the year previous, 30%. So again, there's obviously a number of things going on there for people around the cost of living and pressures on their whānau. So that's a very brief summary, and we're happy to take any questions. Kia ora.
So any questions? Councillor Bowe.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Chair. One of the big issues in Napier, as you know, is housing, lack of, and the fewer and fewer people are able to purchase their own homes. And I just wanted to find out, or just to point out something that jumped out at me, was the fact that with your respondents, when you ask them about home ownership, 75% of them own their own homes. And I just wondered how representative that is nowadays of our general population.
Thank you very much. Excellent question. I've pulled Natalia in as she's, I think we got this question a few years ago, so it was raised again. Sorry? But I'll get Natalia to answer that because, as I say, we have dug around in there a little bit more.
Hi, and thank you for your question. Yes, we do collect more demographic data from our respondents, including home ownership. Unfortunately, we don't stratify our sample by home ownership simply because we don't have accurate data from Statistics New Zealand to say exactly how many homeowners are present in Napier. Even Statistics New Zealand themselves, they rate the quality of their data about home ownership as poor. They show in 2018 approximately 2/3 as owners in Napier, but we can't say how accurate that estimate is, so we can't stratify our sample to that number. In addition to that, usually we see a correlation between age, area where people live, and home ownership. So when we test our results by group differences, we can't necessarily say that the difference are simply because older or younger people, or between homeowners or people who rent. That's not type of relationship we can confirm or deny during the survey. So sometimes we see some lower satisfactions amongst younger people and non-homeowners. So that might be correlation, not because people own or don't own their house, but because of younger or older demographics.
So just, I guess, sort of in summary, when we develop a sample when we target a group of people where we specifically look to make sure that we have age representation, we have ethnicity representation, we have gender representation, and those statistics that we can look at from Statistics New Zealand that are solid and robust. We haven't been asked specifically to develop a sample based on home ownership, and one of the difficulties there is that we can't actually get an absolutely accurate figure on home ownership, except to say that it's around 70-something%, 2/3, yeah. Which goes back to your earlier comment of please fill in the Statistics New Zealand census. It's really, really important because it then means that any information that research companies collect in relation to the population are as accurate and as statistically representative as possible, which is pretty much what we're setting up to do, yeah.
And the reality is the people in the more deprived areas that are less likely to own homes, their take-up for the census is relatively very low. So thank you for that.
Any further questions? Do I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation? Deputy Mayor Brosnan and Councillor Gregg. All those in favour?
Excuse me, can we speak to it now?
Oh, sorry, yeah, certainly.
Thank you.
Councillor Brosnan would like to speak to it.
Just thought I'd speak to it as the mover through you, the chair. I suppose just wanted to make a brief comment. I think thank you very much for the research you've done. It's always very, very important for us to understand that social landscape. As I look through the list of key concerns, those environmental factors, which I think are on page 27 of the report, it's really clear that the cost of living crisis, I believe it's talked about there, or no, the cost of living and inflation is the key issue, seconded by housing, as Councillor Bogue mentioned, and that's something that we're seeing every day in our community and the conversations we're having. Also, when you look through that list of right down to sort of crime, economy, petrol prices, healthcare, so much of that is not inside of us as a local council's direct sphere of influence, but it's really important for understanding the benchmark our community is at as we make our decisions, especially going into our long-term planning conversations. So thank you for a really timely report. It would be really interesting, I suppose, to understand across at a national level, because we ask those questions, for New Zealanders, how our community compares to the rest of New Zealand as well. I imagine we'll see similar themes, but that might be something that would be quite interesting for some commentary on in future reports. So, yeah, thank you through you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to follow on a little bit from the Deputy Mayor's comments about areas of influence, and in particular some of the points that have been highlighted in relation to climate change. So 58% of people are concerned about it, and in particular sea level rise. However, 77% of people don't want to change from using their cars petrol or diesel, and 14% people say they are not actively thinking or would change their mode of transport. Whereas cities around the world are all encouraging people less use of vehicles, petrol, diesel, and multimodal transport. So I think we have an opportunity, as the Deputy Mayor has said, leading into our 10-year plan, as to showing some leadership and encouraging people, and that may be purely by advertising, that encouraging people to use other forms of transport, take vehicles off the road. So very timely and great statistics that we can have as support for moving forward with an active transport strategy. Thank you.
Mayor Wise.
Thank you, through the chair. Just wanting to comment really that I'm really pleased to hear that we're doing a survey post-cyclone. Without predetermining the results, I suspect they will be quite different, and I think it's really important that we do actually have an understanding of how our community is feeling in the here and now. As the Deputy Mayor has said, this information is incredibly valuable, but it is dated, and we really need to have that most up-to-date data, again, to feed into our long-term plan. So looking forward to receiving that report when that survey's been undertaken. Did we have a time frame around that?
Through the chair, yes, we're looking to receive the report from that in July.
Great,
So we'll bring it back to you then.
Excellent, thank you.
Just noting we have had 3 speakers, but it was difficult to work out whether they were for or against, so I'm going to open it up for anyone to contribute. So, Councillor Gregg.
Through Mr Chair, thank you. Thank you for the report. It was really interesting reading. It's really positive to see that from 2021, 45% of people felt safe, and it's gone up to 62%, which is amazing. And I'm wondering if that's partly due to the wonderful awhina tangata, the Napier Assist, because we've had so much good feedback, and I think it's really working. Thank you.
Through the chair, kia ora, that's a really good comment. Just to also highlight, which we haven't covered here, is that the measure for safety used to be at about this level, and it went down to 45% when there were some incidents happening in the city. So it's slowly climbing back up again, which may be partly because of our awhina tangata, but perhaps other things going on as well. Kia ora.
Thank you. Any further speakers? No? Right. There being no more speakers, I will put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right. Agenda item 2, library fines free report, presented by Emma on behalf of Nicola, and it's page 69 of your agenda. So we have Emma here. Welcome, Emma.
Tēnā koutou katoa. E tēnā rā ki te whakarongo, ki e toko whai korero, mō te whare pukapuka. Ko Emma toko ingo, he kaitiaki mātua mō ngā kohikohinga pukapuka ahau. Nā mihi nui, kia koutou katoa. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about the Library Fines Free paper. I'm Emma Shepherd-Warren, the Collections Lead at Napier Libraries. I'm here on behalf of Nicola Saunders, the Library Manager, who is unable to be here today. Thank you also to Thunas for his support in presenting the paper to you today. Library fines and charges present a barrier to equity and limit Napier Library's ability to provide our community with fair access to information and lifelong learning. Both nationally and internationally, it is now recognised that library fines and charges as an incentive to return items on time is in reality a deterrent to using our services. People who can least afford to pay fines are often the ones who need our library services the most. For example, 14.2% of library members living in Maraenui are unable to borrow any further items due to library fines versus 3.5% living in Paraiti. Public Libraries New Zealand and the Library and Information Association of New Zealand, Aotearoa, have been strong advocates for all public libraries to remove library overdue fines for all members, to ensure New Zealanders have access to information, reading, learning, and connections to their community. Removing fines increases the use of membership of libraries. Using libraries provides communities and families with fair and equitable access to information and lifelong learning, with access to reading to build literacy and empathy, and with opportunities to learn and flourish in their community and economy. We also have the support of the Friends of the Library. Napier Libraries started our fine-free journey in 2018 when, following the development of the Napier Library strategy, we stopped charging overdue fees for the children and young adults collections. We are now proposing to make that change across the board and include the adult collections as well. Out of the options put before you today, our preferred option is number 2. That is that council approves the discontinuation of overdue fines and waives historic fines. Should this be approved, as of 30 June 2023, all unpaid fines on customer accounts would be waived and all overdue charges would stop. I do want to note that damaged and lost item fees would remain, as would DVD charges. Thank you for your time today. Ngā mihi nui, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Te tahi pātai, any questions?
Councillor Mawson.
Yeah, through the chair, thank you for that. It's a very, very comprehensive report on that. And yeah, I'd just like to know, when does a book become lost? I mean, if we've got a fee to say it's late, at what point does it become lost and require payment for that?
Very good question, thank you. Through the chair, so we do extend loans out to up to 3 months as long as there are no reserves on that title. Once it has been overdue for more than 6 months, it officially becomes lost, and that's when the new process kicks in of chasing up what has happened to that book and looking to charge for that book.
Okay, just a supplementary question, if I may, Mr. Chair. Is that not the same as a fine? Like, are we experiencing loss and actually getting paid for those?
We do see the overdue fines and the lost as separate. At the moment, we are charging people if they're overdue. So a normal loan period is 28 days. That can be renewed. So if someone brings a book back a few days late, they're getting charged. We see that quite differently from not bringing a book back at all, which is when it becomes lost.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Councillor Crown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kia ora inma. Look, I think it's wonderful that you guys have noted the different opportunities that have already been identified around generating additional revenue. And I wondered, the library strategy that you referred to, 2018 I think it was, are there any targets in that document around the sort of revenue levels that you guys are looking to achieve?
Thank you. Through the chair, there are no targets in that document. We are looking at reviewing the strategy to make sure that it's fit for purpose moving forward, obviously with the new development of the Library and Civic Centre. But in answer to your question, no, there's no specific targets.
Councillor Gregg.
Through the chair, thank you. Just wondering, a question. Do library fines cause friction between library customers and the library staff? Because I'm just thinking that that would be a very good reason to waive them, because if we want to have a good relationship with our community and we want the well-being of our staff to be a priority, I think the fines are not helpful. Just a question and a comment.
Thank you. Through the chair, you are correct that incurring a library fine can be very anxiety causing for customers, and there is a lot of shame involved. So in dealing with a customer, we are very cognizant of that, but of course, asking a customer to pay a fine, you're having that interaction and they are having to stand at a desk and hand over their EFTPOS card. So I think you're right, it would make a big difference in customer-staff relationships.
Any further questions from the team? Councillor Simpson.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there are many positives outlined in the report about eliminating the fees and fines for the age brackets indicated. I was curious, and I can see that there's commentary around amnesty, but does this actually encourage outstanding items to be returned?
Thank you, through the chair. It does. Taking away the historic fines and stopping any further overdue fines does encourage people to come back to the library and feel a part of that community again. Other libraries have found that previously lost items do actually find their way back to the library, and you do find an increase in membership as well.
So through you, Mr Chair, just to follow up and support that commentary, so therefore there is actually a saving around our asset and stock maintenance.
Yes, exactly.
Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Chair. I just have a question, a procedural one, if that's all right, around the recommendation. To me, it sits in two parts. There's approving the discontinuing of the existing or waiving the historic fines. But secondly, am I correct, just a question, am I correct in thinking this is an amendment to our fees and charges policy, the removing of the fee ongoing?
I'll have to send you to the expert on this one.
Thank you.
Mr Chair, yes, there will be a change, but yes.
So,
we will be changing it when we change the, all the other fees and charges for council. It will come to council.
So just probing that a little bit, am I correct in understanding your answer that we, in this recommendation, will be waiving the fines and signalling a future change to fees and charges, or are you expecting that this resolution would mean fees would be non-applicable once it is passed?
Yes, we will take it as not applicable after it's passed.
Okay, so we should, through you, Mr Chair, to the Director, perhaps split them out and note that it is an amendment to the fees and charges policy?
Good. The idea was to bring it back as a fees and charges change, because this is going to be implemented from the 30th of June.
So it's,
So we're going to come back to council with the changes in the fees and charges before then.
can I just put in there, are fines part of fees and charges? Because I just go back,
Yeah.
okay. I'm just sort of going back, looking at parking fines. I don't think the fines have ever come through us, have they? The amount that they are, have they? Okay. Stand corrected. So what are you proposing here?
I'm just trying to understand, Mr Chair. I think if I understand correctly, we're not making the change now. We're signalling a change to the future paper on fees and charges. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So through you, Mr Chair, Councillor, would you want us to add something into the recommendation to signal that, or are you happy for us to come back with the fees and charges before 30 June?
I think what's causing my confusion is the three words, all fines stop. I think what you're saying is actually a recommendation from this committee or a decision of this committee to request that fines for library, overdue library fines are removed as part of the fees and charges review 30 June or whatever that may look like. That's what you're suggesting, isn't it? That we actually make that change at 30 June?
Yes.
Yeah. So perhaps we could, through you, Mr Chair, split out A and create a B at the end of 2023 and remove the words all fines stop.
Would you be happy just to remove that last line?
Yeah, I think
Just all fines stop, damaged and damaged and lost item fees and DVD charges remain. Does that need to be in there and just have the first part of it?
probably just the first part of it, and then
Yep.
the minutes could
Can work.
reflect that there will be
Yes.
the fines conversation as part of the fees
Yep,
and
can work,
charges
because, yeah.
paper.
Mr Chair, would the word recommend rather than approve cover all that without putting in something specific? Just recommend discontinuing. So that would be a recommendation that goes to the fees and charges,
Yeah.
which will be decided before the 30th of
Yeah.
June.
Because fees and charges can only be accepted by formal council. So are we in a position to approve it as opposed to recommend?
Through you, Mr Chair, my understanding is we are in a position as a decision-making committee to approve the discontinuing of the overdue fees, being Section A. Section B being all fines stop, needs to be referred through to the paper Mr Coates has discussed.
And sorry, further to that through the chair, could I suggest that the actual review of the fees and charges is included as part of our 23-24 annual plan? That will align with the dates, and that means we don't have to do a separate paper. We can just update the draft annual plan and consider it as part of that process. Yeah, perfect.
Madam, yeah.
Through.
Councillor Brown?
Yes, through the chair. I just want to continue what the Deputy Mayor was saying. I think there is two separate things that we're doing here, and I think just for clarity's sake, if we did separate them out into an A and a B, I think that would remove a lot of confusion, because in those first 5 words we say do both. So if we just had approved to waive historic fines on custom accounts as one, and then B be the second option of the recommendation to stop in the annual plan process.
We're not quite yet, we're just discussing amending a motion. Yeah, good point. So this being question time, do I have a member who wishes to put an alternate motion for a better term? Is that the term I have to use? Councillor Brosnan? Deputy Mayor Brosnan?
Through you, Mr Chair, I'm happy to move a new substantive motion, being A, approve discontinuing overdue fines and waive historic fines, $50,241 on customer accounts, waived on 30 June 2023. B, recommends that the removal of overdue library fines be considered by Council as part of the 2023-24 annual plan fees and charges review.
Now, I guess we require a seconder for that. No, I've got to get a seconder first. Councillor Crown, would you second that? Would you like to speak to that being the mover?
Happy to reserve speaking and allow discussion to the motion.
Okay, discussion. Councillor Tarahau?
Tuatahi ake, tēnā koe e ma i tō whai kōrero tēnei ata. I just want to open up by saying I'm a little sceptical when it comes to trusting overseas evidence, but I've got a number of questions. How do we replace and fix lost and or damaged items? What is a historic fine? Well, you might have mentioned that. When is it a historic fine? And I was just wondering, maybe, can we maybe trial this first for maybe 5 years or so, and just, yeah, what's to stop people from just keeping the item? Yeah.
Matt, do you want to have a shot at some of those?
Sure, through the chair. Thank you for the question. I think what we need to differentiate between overdue fines when something still comes back, but it's just comes back late. So that's what we're proposing, to remove those fines. If it doesn't come back at all, that's when it becomes lost, and that's when we need to start a whole different process of charging for that item.
So how do we replace and fix lost and broken items?
For lost and damaged, if the item is still a key item for the collection, then we would attempt to replace it. And so that's what a charge is helping us do, as well as the administration around that. There are occasions where a book is unable to be replaced. It may be out of print. Yeah.
So how will we fund that if we support this motion?
We would continue to purchase replacement books out of the book stock ledger as we currently buy the items. The income from any charges would be in a separate ledger line. Does that answer your question?
Chair?
Yes.
May I just, thank you, Emma. May I just add through you, Mr. Chair, that we have an amount per annum that we do replace books, and so we do have a weeding policy where we go through the books and making sure that the books on our shelves are still relevant. And so through that process, we would then also determine if that book is still needed, and then either purchase it or not. So we have a budget for that.
Right. We currently have a substantive motion on the table that's been moved and seconded. So I guess we're speaking for or against currently, and then I'll put it to the vote. Councillor Simpson, is yours for or against?
Sort of. I'm in favour of the motion, so
Yep.
I'm speaking for the motion, but I just want to query, just to follow up on Councillor Tara's questioning, is there an item limit? So when people come to the counter, if they exceed the number of items they are allowed to borrow at any one time, are they then rationed as to what they are allowed to leave with after that point? Again, just to protect the volume of stock that's leaving the building.
Yes, thank you, through the chair. We do have a 99 item limit, which does sound like a lot, but I do want to remind everyone that there are family cards, and for example, some of our homeschooled families, they do reach that limit quite frequently, and so they are asked to return books before they can take out any further titles.
Councillor Bogue?
I would like to speak in favour of this recommendation, and I appreciate the changes that have been made to clarify things. I just think it's good for me to support it, the whole thing in principle. Basically, the library is one of the few places, perhaps the only place, where we provide free services for people that they don't have to pay to use, and it's quite a haven for people who have time in their hands and don't have money to spend shopping or sitting in a cafe. So the issue really for me is, who are the ones that can't pay their fines? It is those people, lower socioeconomic, who see this as an important free service from our City Council. So I'm totally in support of this recommendation, and thank you for bringing it to us.
Councillor Crown?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, happy to second this motion, the substantive motion. I think it's a good change. I actually really like the evidence-based approach that our library team have taken in presenting this to us. I think it's important to have that mix of overseas and national examples of accessibility and where fines have compromised that. And the other thing that I think that we have to remember is that as the different reports come through to council at different times or different committees, the governors always have the opportunity to be triggered into requesting or recommending a review of operational activities. So I think we're pretty safe in regards to if it needs to be looked at in the future, we have the ability to do so. But it feels like a positive step forward, I think, for our community. So thank you.
Can I just ask you to put that back on the screen for me? Just the officer's recommendation, the substantive motion. Approve the waiving of overdue library late fees, fines, historic fines up to $50,241 on customer accounts waived on the 30th of June 2023. recommends that the removal of overdue library fines be considered by council as part of the 23-24 annual plan fees and charges policy. Right, I will put that, oh sorry, are you wanting to speak?
Oh, can I just ask a question on the motion now? Sorry. Just was the intention always that we were to wait till the 30th of June to waive the fees, or is that something we could do immediately? Can I wait?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're waiting for 30th of June.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, and through the chair, just recognising that because we haven't actually removed the fines as yet, they will need to continue being charged through till the 30th of June, meaning the amount waived will actually be different. Just noting that.
Yeah.
We
Through
seem like
without
simple
requiring
papers,
any.
these ones, and they never are.
Right.
Take the money out. Way.
Take the number out.
Okay, yes.
Oh.
So to take the money out, Councillor Brosnan, Deputy Mayor Brosnan, would you like to reword your substantive motion? Substantive?
And historic fines relating to overdue fees. It's not all fines. It's not all fines, is it, now that we've removed the number? There'll be other fines relating to damaged
Waiving.
goods that remain.
We're currently waiving.
And the second wave
Just
can come out.
So approving the waiving of overdue library late fees and fines and historic fines relating to overdue fees on customer accounts on or up to?
It's on.
On? As of 30th of June 2023.
And sorry, and just the I in waiving, just so we're not waving to people. Thank you. Just the I, excuse me, and just the I in waving. The I in waving.
Add a second one.
The first waving.
I'm not going to wave again. We're not allowed to talk about waves.
It's spelt wrong.
Yeah, thank you.
The officer's
There we
recommendation.
go.
Through you, Mr Chair, is this now the officer's recommendations or the committee's recommendation?
This is a substantive motion put by Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
So being through you, Mr Chair, that we're sort of workshopping the wording as we go, which is often how you get to the best result, thank you. I'm happy for procedural reasons to approve those amendments to my substantive motion. Thank you, if the seconder also agrees.
Right. Have we covered all our bases with this one now?
Seconder agrees.
Seconder agrees? Right. Oh. Deputy Mayor, your right of reply.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I think it was summed up well by the seconder, very well put together paper, and support the kaupapa. Fees are obviously archaic, and I'm glad we're moving forward with removing them for late fees. Thank you.
There being no more speakers, I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. There's no minor matters on the agenda, so what I'm going to do is adjourn the meeting, and there'll be a short break, and we'll come back for public excluded after Councillor Crown's meeting.